Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcasting Alpha on 44 different platforms around the world, and we're going to have some fun tonight because we got an incredible guest with us. She's talking, and she's teaching about things that is far outside of the box. And she probably is so far outside of the box too that maybe she doesn't even know where the box is anymore. That's where I am. Anyway, I my name is Augie, and my co-host Nori cannot be here tonight, so we'll just have to suffer through all by ourselves. But hopefully, we'll be okay. And we are also transmitting and running live on Conscious Awakening Network. So go visit them over at consciousawakeningnetwork.org. They have close to 50 different shows over there that talks about all the things that both you and me need to know about. I spent some considerable time over there, and it is really interesting, the shows they have over there. And before I introduce the guest, I also want to tell you how you can connect with Nori and I. And you can just go to broadcastteamalpha.com, and you can use the contact feature and send us an email, and then we will get the email and we'll get back to you, and we can see what we can do for you. So it could get interesting. And Nori and I also created a spiritual think tank 3 years ago. And we do incredible things there. It seems like we are creating things out of seemingly nothing sometimes. And of course, we know it is not nothing because nothing does not exist. There's always something. So, oh, there's a story behind that one. But for if you want to be part of something that is really out there, where you can create things out of seemingly nothing and be able to use it in the physical reality with you for your benefit, send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Themastermindconnection@gmail.com. I'll get the email, and we'll send you a link and some information so you can come and participate in the creation process that we have developed. And now I want to introduce you to our guests. And we have Jennifer Falau Doring with us. And I had to shorten down the bio here because it was really lengthy. So she's a medical intuitive, angelic medium. She's a healer, a podcast host on. She's on two different shows, and she's an interdimensional traveler and a teacher of that. And she is the host of Real News Live with Mike Vera. And the second show she's doing is philosophy. But its first part spells as her name, and I thought that was cute. Philosophy. And beyond that, I really want to hear what you have to say tonight. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Augie. Thank you for having me on the show.
This is going to be fun. And I don't even know where to start because you do so many things, and you have been around on the YouTube and places teaching and making people's life better for quite a few years. So, but I want to ask you, you are on a path of raising people's consciousness. But what brought you to this path? Was there a special incident in the back that maybe told you that, no, I'm going to get out of the business world and I'm going over there? Or where did it start for you?
Well, just like everybody else on a spiritual journey, there are many points in time where I learned things and made decisions, and it was kind of a accumulation of experiences all this time, but if I could pinpoint one occasion that was really the turning point for me, it would have been the when my husband was killed by a drunk driver in 2007, and I was 34 on his way home from work. And my 2 children, 4 and 7 at the time, my 2 girls, I had to go on with them, and not fail. And it was the faith that I had my entire life, and being in tune to energies and in tune I really didn't realize much of what I was doing at the time, um, that led me to a person. Well, actually, I teamed up with a person who was like an encyclopedia of knowledge for all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just a very knowledgeable person. He was a private researcher, he said, for the Monroe Institute, which at the time was the leading institute of human consciousness and the study of that. And he used hemisync technology. He suggested, because I was widowed, that I should meditate for stress. And I was kind of like, well, what are you trying to say? But, um, so I did. But when I did, I didn't use his hemisync. I knew I was going to go somewhere and I didn't know why. And so I decided, just, you've got these certain things that you know, but you don't really know. I knew that this was something I was going to do, or I needed to be in a safe place. And so I decided to go and sit in heaven. And there was this tree in my dreams that I would go to as a child and different times in my life, and I would meet people, and it was just such a lovely place. And so I decided, well, I'll go sit under my tree and I'll create this lovely visualization. And so I did that. And I would keep doing that. And one day, Archangel Gabriel walked up. Um, and then another day, Michael was there. And then one day, Jesus walked up, and I didn't know who it was. It's not that I didn't know Jesus, but he looked different, just a bit different. And so, um, I looked at him and I said, "Who is that? Who is that?" And I'm thinking, why are these people coming into my created scene here? How creative am I? And and he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to give you the gift of sight." When I realized who it was, I jumped up and down and came up to him and I said, "What do you mean?" I thought I already had it. I'm looking at you right now. And so over time, just for my own enjoyment and not really knowing if it was real or not, I would go into meditation when the kids were asleep at night rather than watch TV. And I was meeting more and more archangels and sitting down on a chair in the middle of the field with Jesus and asking questions. And that led to many, many answers. And over time, while doing that in meditation, I was able to connect with them outside of meditation. And so, and I found that we could go to the levels of heaven. Certain levels were hard to go to in the beginning because of the vibration. Like the seventh, it was very high. And then I started asking fun questions like, can you show me what Atlantis looked like? And, why is this and why is that? And I learned a lot of things. And over time, people asked me what I was doing, and I called it interdimensional meditation because I became aware that it was a projection of consciousness. It was kind of like remote viewing, but remote viewing is done with a very scientific method. And I would just go. And then later on, I found that I could do this when people asked me, well, what do you think's out in this cave in the middle of the desert? Suddenly I'm looking in the cave just as if you would zoom in on your phone. And it grew from there. And it is kind of a combination between a deep form of prayer, remote viewing, and a typical meditation. And I believe it's a projection of the heavenly body Um, and it's not astral projection. It really, it is a light meditation. So, and then in working with this other individual, I was telling about experiences that I had as a child, and one day, this is how I found out I could do it out of meditation, and I was doing it all along. I just didn't realize what I was doing, and I think most people are doing this all along and don't realize what they're doing. Um, because I was talking to, I don't want to use his name because I don't know if it's okay. Um, but I was talking to him on the phone one night. We were talking about things, and I said, "Where are you right now?" I'm like, "There's all kinds of like buckets and the sticks sticking out of them and metal contraptions on the floor, and then behind you, there's a big workbench, and on that, there's a giant yellow duck." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not talking to him anymore. He's going to think I'm crazy now." And he goes, "I'm going to hang up and I'm going to send you a picture. And then after that, we're going to talk about this." And so he sent me a picture, and he was standing in his garage, and he had this kind of duck that floats in a spa and measures temperature. He says, "You just described the contents of my garage in reverse." So
Oh,
everything was a mirror image. And he goes, "Now tell me how you did that." And I'm like, "Well, I've always done that. Doesn't everybody do that? Can't you see the room the person's in when you're talking to them on the phone?" He said, "No, that's not normal." I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "We've got something here." And so he and I told him about, he just, like, I told him about what was happening in meditation and stuff, and he said, "Well, I've got the HemiSync technology, and you're doing this. Let's go in and ask this archangels the same questions and exchange emails and not communicate and see if we get the same answers." And it came back so similar every time. My answers were more emotional, more loving. His were more scientific, and that we started doing radio. And we did a radio show called The Beacon, where we would do this every week, and we would not reveal our findings until we were on the air live. And it was quite interesting. And at some point, I thought, um, this guy's deceiving me. There's no way that this is real. There's no way that this is really happening. And I don't know what kind of deceiver he is, but he's pretty good. And so I went into meditation and I talked to Archangel Michael and I said, "All right, I don't know what's going on here. If this is something that you guys want me to do, that God wants me to do for people, I'll do it, but I need confirmation that this is really happening here." And so I said, "I'm going to give him a code word, and the code word is yellow. I'm going to tell him to come into meditation. I'm not going to tell him who to talk to. If he comes back in that email and gives me that code word, I will continue to do this." So freak you out. I I told him, "Go into meditation, somebody wants to talk to you." And he comes out back about hour later with the email back. And he said, "I don't know who you wanted me to talk to, but Archangel Michael was there and he said yellow and he told me to leave." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Like,
there you
okay,
go.
all right, I'll do this. And so over the years, many years, I've done radio, and this is how I retrieve information. It has led me to a place to uncover lots of truths, universal truths. And now I teach interdimensional meditation. I teach other people to do it in many different ways so that they can go sit with their loved ones who have passed away and see them again, sit down with Jesus in a field and get their own guidance. I do it in a very protected, God centered way. And I teach people how to do this on their own. And that led to me teaching what's called now God centered conscious creation. Still learning about that, of course, and I guess you could
Yeah.
live a million lifetimes and never know everything about that, but it's been a very interesting journey, and it led me to a place where I, long time ago, started doing readings for other people. It
Mhm.
led me to a place where I started doing healings on other people. I had someone ask me, it was a psychic friend of mine. She says, "Well, if you can do that, why don't you do healings?" I said, "Because I'm not a healer. I don't know. I don't know." Um, and she goes, "Why don't you try?" And so I did. And she said that she just gave me the name of the woman. And in the healing room, I called the soul in. And the soul came into this healing room, angels all around, God's light up above, and Jesus was there. And I started pulling things out of her body that looked like decayed teeth. The bone was decayed, and all these things. And the first thing I asked her is, "Do you accept God's healing?" And the light came down from above from God, and I did all these things, and I reported back to her, and I said, "I don't know. I could be crazy. This could be totally wrong, but here it is." So 2 weeks later, I get this call from this woman,
Mm.
not the woman I did a healing on, but her mother.
Oh,
And she was crying, and I'm like, and she told me she was her mother, and I'm like, "Oh my God." And she said, "Not only," she goes, "I want to just thank you because my daughter has 2 children like you do, and she has bone cancer. Not only has she gone into full remission, but she's generating new bone." And I fell
oh,
down. I was in the store shopping for shoes for the kids, and I fell down on the seat there where you try on the shoes. And I was just dumbfounded for days. And I went back into meditation and I talked to Jesus. And I said, "I don't know how and I don't know why. But if this is what you want me to do, I will do it." And I've been doing it for years for people privately. It led to the ability, which I call medical intuitive. That is basically standing there with Jesus and with the person on the phone and going from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet and telling them everything I see wrong in their body. They take this information back to the doctors so that they can find the problem. And people come to me when the doctors cannot find out what is wrong. It led me to doing the show with Mike Barra. And we have a community over there of truthers
yeah.
and people interested in the financial transition and things like that. And every week I go
Mhm.
into meditation and I ask what's coming. And I put it out in on Telegram and I put it out on the show. And we have had many, many confirmations on that. And they call that a Gentel confirm. They call it Gentel because Mike came up with that because it was easier than saying information I've received in interdimensional meditation.
Yeah.
So that's how I got here. It was through
Wow.
faith, and it was because I needed that guidance through that meditation to keep moving forward in a positive direction. And so whatever information that I receive, whatever I do for others, and I have done that for thousands of people on the phone, through my words, through meditations, through healings, through medical evaluations, is to help them move forward in a positive direction.
Wow. That sounds incredible. Yeah. So, how many other people have you taught how to do this now?
That's been fun because they're doing it.
Yeah.
That is fun. Probably about 30.
Hmm.
I only take on certain people, and what I do is I have 9 video recorded classes, and I give them the recorded classes, and then I teach them in private sessions, and I don't charge very much for it because I don't like that when people do that. Um, and I teach psychic development, interdimensional meditation, and all the way up to God-centered conscious creation.
that is quite a journey. Man, that's gosh, I don't even know what to say anymore. This is, but I think that you were chosen. I don't think did not sound like you went after it. I think you were chosen for a reason. Do you have any idea why you were chosen?
Well, I asked, there are many meditations where I went in and I was asking, why are the angels talking to me? Why is this happening to me? Have I just lost it? And I'm a very grounded person. I'm a very responsible person. I need to have confirmations and, I always stay open to the possibility of being wrong. So I went in one time and I was talking to Jesus and I said, it was a very simple explanation. And I said, "Well, why is this happening?" I mean, and he said, "Well, you have a very special team because you had a very special dream for this lifetime. I chose to do this before I came here. It's not that I'm any more special than anyone else. And I think they allowed me to do this and allowed me to remember a little bit more so that I could teach other people. We've gotten to a place in time where the programming of society has kept people in a place where they feel small, irrelevant,
Yeah.
and out of control. And that is not true. The
Mhm.
programming of society teaches people that, so they will stay small and out of the way, and they can maintain control.
Yeah.
Um, the dark side, um, there is a up and a down and a left and a right and a back and a forth and a dark and a light. Everything exists somewhere because we create with thought. Everything
Mhm.
is created with thought. It was not the word in the beginning, it was the thought of creation.
Yeah. That's
Man has used, and the dark side has used, however you want to, low vibrational entities have controlled the creators all this
yeah.
time and convinced them of certain things so that they will not know that they themselves are creators. And so, and connected to God. You're never unconnected. Everything is housed within the body of God. So that's a long explanation. I could go through that.
Yeah.
But really abbreviated version of everything that's happened.
Well, it told us everything that I think we are capable of understanding at this point in time. But how does it feel when you are in the presence of these higher angelic beings?
Like you're a child, and like you're the most precious daughter or granddaughter. Um, I'm like a child in meditation. I really am. I'm always just so open to learning something new, and
Mhm.
um, the way they teach is perfect. They'll
Mhm.
teach you in such a way that does not inflict their will upon yours. Most often, the answer to your question could be another question to bring you to
Yeah.
that conclusion. Um, but it's just like going home.
Mhm.
It's beautiful and
Yeah.
wonderful and peaceful. And that's one reason why I teach people to do it themselves.
Mhm.
I can give everybody the trunk and the branches with this kind of meditation and this kind of
Mhm.
projection of consciousness and creation, but it's going to be all their leaves. Everyone's going to have a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, let's see, we got 5 minutes left here on the bottom of the hour. So I'm wondering also when you say interdimensional meditation, and you asked about what did it look like in Atlantis, you're not just doing interdimensional travel, you're also traveling in time, or are you seeing the records of it as it was recorded back in a previous time? Which one do
You
you
can
think?
go to any point in time in this dimension, or you can go to any place in another dimension. The soul is limitless. All you have to have is a destination. This is why when I teach people, we have a team. You have your team of archangels. You have Jesus is most present because they know where you need to go to learn and get the answers that you want to have. And so, no, we actually went to a point in time, and it's usually what you experience is just like, boom, you're standing there and you're viewing just like remote viewing where whatever is around you. Um, and then you're kind of zooming forward for the next answer and the next answer. So it is kind of hard to explain, but it is a 360. It's like stepping into a dream. So if somebody really wants to know something about what it looks like somewhere or on the moon, did that too. Um, Usually you're going right now. If we have a historical event like when I did the Kennedy assassination, um, then we go to that moment in time and you're kind of um hopping around. So you have one perspective and then another perspective because as soon as you think, well, I wonder what it looks like from over there, or I want to see what's over there, you're there. Because that's how the fast you move with the speed of thought, just like spirit does. So Atlantis was just a when I went there, it was very short. I haven't been back. I haven't gotten a lot of information on that. I was off to other things. But what I saw was a man standing there with a golden headdress that was flat and it looked like it had some kind of bird on it. He had some kind of breastplate and some kind of short outfit on. Like there was a lot of skin showing. So it was definitely warm there. And what I was asking is what happened to it. And what I saw, he was very tall, very tall. And what I saw, and I looked over to the left and I saw this red beam that looked like a laser come down and hit the top of a mountain and go down into the ground. And then when I looked out on the horizon, I saw them in all different places. And what that did was it set off the volcanoes and heated up the underground water and that bubbled to the surface. And I think that might have been the whole flood with Noah, but I'm not sure. I haven't done enough research to match up any kind of time periods. I didn't get a time period. So, but it's kind of like that. So it's open to interpretation and translation of the scene that you saw. And then you ask additional questions while you're there.
And then you get the answers right away. Well, the answers, are they coming in visual images or as a knowing?
Well, you have a definite visual image. It's like walking into a dream. So you have this 360 image that you can move around in. And I've got Archangel Michael or Gabriel Jesus with me. And you can walk around within it and ask questions and a lot of it's audible. Um so he'll answer my questions. I'll hear it. Of course, it's, in my mind. And sometimes when you ask a question, they'll just show you something and let you come to your own conclusions. Um, it comes in always outside of meditation when I'm doing the readings and things like that. But always positive, always constructive, always divine. Nothing divine is forced. And the number one rule of the universe is that you cannot, or of all creation, is that you do not interfere with free will because it is God's will. And because each and every piece, we are all housed within the body of God.
Mhm.
The multiverse, is housed within the body of God at different vibrational levels. So You do not force your will upon another and interfere with free will. Only the dark side who wants to corrupt those pieces of God will do that. So it has been consistent over all these years. They have never done anything or said anything that is anywhere less than divine.
Mm, yeah. I see we are down at the bottom of the hour. So, for those of you that joined us late, we are talking with Jennifer Falah, and she is explaining what she is doing and teaching other people how to do. Is something she calls God centered conscious creation. And that type of creation probably almost would look like you create out of seemingly nothing. But it's nothing. There is the unified field or the God creative energy that helps the creation. And the interdimensional meditation you need to hear more about because we're going to talk a little more about that in the second half here. I want to ask you, Jennifer, have they told not this universe? Remember the guy about 1970 some years ago? He said, "In my father's house there is many rooms," and it appears now quantum mechanics is coming around and proving that to us by repeatable scientific incidents. Now, have you heard or seen anything about parallel timelines where we may also be in another reality next to ours?
Mhm. Absolutely. They showed me
Well,
the shape of the universe. It actually looks like, so we have different, so there's this infinity symbol, okay? And the way, so I don't have the notes. Um, so this just take a lot of explanation. So if you were to so draw on a piece of paper, draw a target with a bullseye. The middle is the biggest piece of God, okay? That is the highest of vibration. There is no darkness that can exist there. That is the unmoved mover. So if you and the rings around the bullseye are different dimensions and they are a different vibrational spectrum for each.
mhm,
Okay. We are separations of self of God. And I can get into the God theory and make sense of that if you'd like, but it's so abbreviated version here. So the rings around the bullseye are the dimensions.
mhm,
And as it moves out from the source, it's a lower vibrational spectrum. Lower vibrational spectrum goes on and on and on. Okay. Turn that on its side. Now, you have an infinity symbol, okay, for a soul's timeline.
right,
You've got infinity, and it looks like a big rope. Okay. So I'm not sure yet if on this rope it's your higher self, which would be the first division of God, the first separation of self. And then those pieces separate themselves, having all the abilities of God. The first separation of self, and all the separations of self would create this rope. That's what I think it is. And your lifetime, as you move through these dimensions in this infinity symbol, um, energy flows through this infinity symbol. And as it flows through different vibrational dimensions, the rate of time is different. Okay. Now, take all the separations of self and line them all up, and it creates like this. When you've turned the bullseye on its side, it creates like this donut. Okay. So it looks like a big donut. And then that is what everything looks like. Okay. And as you move through, as you flow through this, your personal infinity symbol, your personal rope, you exist So I believe the energy flows through, this is also why God knows everything. Energy flows through the center of the
Mhm.
bullseye.
Yeah.
So as it was explained to me, if you take your rope, your infinity symbol, you can exist, you always exist in the middle at home, but you can exist. So I thought it was per separation of self we have a rope. And oh, that's what it is. That's right. Okay, so this incarnation, you've got a rope. All the spans, all the different threads on that rope are different timelines. They are different possibilities that can happen when you make choices as a creator. As this and so you can exist on that personal rope as it flows, the energy flows through the dimensions 5 times.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not sure yet if that 5 times is one thread in that rope. It gets very big. Everything is infinite, but there are definitely alternate realities. I'm not sure
Mhm.
if all those little threads on that rope are different timelines, possibilities for alternate realities. We have collective realities, we have personal realities. Um, there are separations of self that psychology recognizes.
Mhm.
We've got our conscious mind, we've got our subconscious mind, and you have the superconscious mind. And that's what we take a look at when we're talking about God centered conscious creation.
Yeah.
But I'd really have to tell you the God theory.
Yeah.
The Archangel Uriel gave me the diagram of the universe multiverse and how it's set up. Of course, I know just like nothing about it, just a little bit, but and it'll probably take me my entire life to figure it out if I could ever figure it out anyway. But these are the types of things that I have learned. Um, to understand this, I got to tell you a little story. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you my God theory, and it's very simple. Everything is taught to me as if I was a child, so that it is easily absorbed. And then when I absorb something to a place where I know it, they'll teach me more. Um, so in the beginning, there was God and nothing else. Okay. So make a little story to understand a very big concept. Okay. And I want you to picture him, and this is how it was explained to me, as this giant lead crystal vase just hanging out there in the middle of the darkness, full of all the knowledge that there ever was and there ever could be. This illuminated crystal vase, okay? And so God said, well, here I am, all knowing. But am I? Because I am aware of a concept called experience. And if I do not experience, then I am not all knowing. And so, with that thought, creation was born. It was not the word, it was the thought.
Mhm.
He thought, well, I'll have to separate myself in order to experience. And all these pieces of me will, of course, have all the abilities that I have to go out and to interact with each other and to separate themselves and to have all the experiences to match up with all of this knowledge that I have. Okay. So then I want you to imagine this giant crystal vase and you slam it down on a concrete floor and it busts in a billion pieces. Okay. Not all the pieces are the same size. There is always one piece that is bigger, and that is the base. And God knew, okay,
Okay.
are we good?
Yep. Very good.
Okay. God knew I need to separate myself I need these pieces of me to forget that they are me in order to be them.
Oh, right.
But I cannot separate myself in an equal number of equal pieces because then the thought of creation would be lost and it would all be a vase again. So I must be the unmoved mover. I must remain at the center of everything and hold the thought of creation. And so he created the first separation of self, which is where our true selves reside in the seventh heaven, the first ring around the bullseye, the first vibrational spectrum. And he said, well, I must create a playground. I must create areas in which these pieces of myself can interact and have these experiences. And he knew that each separation of self must exist at a different vibrational spectrum, or it would go back, it would be sucked back into the whole,
Mm.
into the bigger piece. So the center of everything is the highest of vibration. There is nothing but knowledge and truth and love there. There is nothing but creation there. So God was never a vengeful God. So you've got the first ring around the bullseye. That is the Garden of Eden. That
Uh-huh.
is where it is. That is the highest of vibration. That is where your true self resides. And your true self says, well, there's not a whole lot of strife or conflict here because of the vibration. We've all interacted with each other. Let's separate ourselves again. All right. So now we've created another ring around the bullseye at a lower vibrational spectrum. And we go down and down, separations of selves and selves and selves and selves. And we get all the way down to ground zero, which is where we are right now. Those are the seven levels of heaven.
Yeah.
So
What
you're
is
at
below us?
So well, the way my diagram is, we've got the center, we've got the seventh level, and it goes all the way down to zero. We're at zero. Then you get into the minus dimensions. And why is that? Why is that? Because God said I would get, they are separations of me. So they will have free will and they must have free will and freedom of thought and the freedom to create so that they can have all these experiences. And so it is only probable and natural that during that time, as you separate the cells and get down in lower and lower vibrational spectrums, that there will be strife. And when you forget who you are truly, and you become so wrapped up in that pain and suffering, the soul becomes corrupted.
Yeah.
And those souls that become corrupted start to have their own theories. All right. Well, that's where you got the dark side. That's where it came in because they're angry and they're mad and they don't know who they truly are and then they find out, okay, well now we've got several lower levels here and they're so demented and so corrupted that they believe, well, what's up? We can no longer create because we're too far away from the source. Just like when you're at a campfire and it's very warm next to the campfire, the further you get away from it, the less you feel the heat. Well, they're down in a very cold place where they cannot create. So they decided to break into this dimension or one by one, and they think they can conquer it all the way to the center and conquer God, which is ridiculous because they'll never be able to make it up that high in vibration. But that's what they're trying to do, so they can get into to ground zero. And this is the war between good and evil. They know that you are God, each and every one of you, that everything is God's creation at a different vibration.
Yeah.
They know that they must, that is why our perception is so important. That is why the programming is so important
Mm.
because they don't want you to know this. Um, that is why Jesus was able to heal the sick and walk on water because he eliminated the negative, the doubt. He eliminated he was a much bigger piece. He's the big piece God, as the unmoved mover, uses to move around in. And that is absolutely true. Um, Everything is created with thought, and everything goes somewhere
Yep.
according to the vibration that it matches. That is where you will go. That is where your thought will go, and it will
Mm.
create something, okay, or destroy something. The process of creation, conscious creation, has not, we are doing it all the time. This is how we created our reality, but we're unaware of it. And so, what happens with human beings is that the positive thought and the idea, like an old fashioned scale, okay, we've got positive energy, okay? Well, the doubt comes up and the positive energy comes down, and you end up with some kind of existence or creation in the middle. So, if you eliminate the infusion of the negative and low vibrational energy, which is doubt, fear, pain, can't do it, I'm limited, this is solid, then you end up with our physical existence. Um, Jesus, when he walked, found himself a much bigger piece, paired up with the biggest piece. The reason that he in that was able to create miracles. This is also the power of prayer. All these little pieces of God coming together, united to create something positive. It
Mhm.
only works when you pair up with the big piece. So, other theories, everything else is not as effective because you are you they they come up with this concept. Okay, well you've got science or you've got faith. Science is the study of everything that God already created.
Yep.
It's all together as one. And when we come to that realization, we'll understand who we are and what we're capable of. Now, you have choices all along the way. Do you choose to create something positive? Do you embrace the high vibrational energy of love and goodness and giving and all of that?
Yep.
You draw to you that which you project. So if you're projecting that out, it's only natural that's going to come around to you eventually, and you're going to create a better life. That's the purpose of this.
Yep.
The problem with other theories and other and everything else is that they've taken the bullseye out and they've tried to draw energy from ground zero, earth energies. They're messing around with earth energy. Well, that's not complete creation because you need more power. You need
Yep.
more energy. You need a higher vibrational energy to create something. So you pair up with the bigger piece. All these little pieces of God wanting something, praying to the bigger piece. You pair up with that. Now you've got a miracle. Jesus did that as a bigger piece along with God and was able to walk on water and raise people from the dead and heal the sick. And that actually is true. So it's best to think we start out our process of God centered conscious creation by remembering who we are. And think of your life, and it's hard to think of, okay, well, if I'm God and they're God, then I feel very lonely because everybody's the same person. Everybody's God, right? No. This is why there is a beginning and there is no end. Because once the thought of creation was had, there is also another thought, and an alternate reality. And there will always be another thought. And with every thought, something new is created. And that is why it never ends. You never have to lose your identity. So, the way that you can most positively live your life is to think about yourself on a journey in a car. So, your body is the car. We've got the windshield is our eyes, and the side windows are our ears. And we know there's an engine in there, but we're not quite sure what to give it or what to feed it. But we think if we push this and we turn that, it'll go. Okay. And we're driving on our journey and we're on some kind of road and there's trees falling and rocks rolling down the hill. And you roll down the window and you look at the guy next to you and say, well, where are you going? He says, well, I don't know. I'm following this guy. And that guy drives off a cliff. And you get frustrated and you pull over to the side of the road and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing or how I got here. And you look over, but all you ever really had to do was look over in the passenger seat because God's been sitting right there, seeing everything that you see, feeling everything that you feel, every bump in the road. the whole time. And that is why you're never alone. And that is why he knows everything. And so all you got to do is turn around, look at him, and say, "Well, I never knew you were there. Where do you want to
Mhm.
go now?" And he'd say, "Well, I'm so glad you asked because I have a map."
Yeah, you got a co-pilot.
Right. And so, volumes of information, I just like wound up into a very condensed explanation, but
Mhm.
that is what I've learned so far and what I'm teaching other people. So it's really, you want to talk about waking up.
Yeah, we got a quick question in the middle of this. So when you have that, the bullseye and the rings around it as the different dimensional existences, and when you get to the edge, what is outside of that? Or said another way, is what is below us in vibration? Is it what people say, oh, yeah, that's hell? No, what is
We
below
don't
us
really
in?
know how many rings, how many lower vibrational states there are, spectrums there are below ground zero that is this dimension. Um, and I don't know if we will ever know. I mean, that's the question of, okay, well, if God is our God, then who is his? For all we know, if everything's housed within the body of God, then whose body is he housed in? I don't know if we'll ever know that. Maybe when we get home, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, I think
But
doing,
for all we know, if everything is infinite, and that could just be think about the cells in your body. I mean, that blows my mind, and I don't have the answer to that, of course.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and when we think about the existence as quantum mechanics is starting out to prove some of this to be true. And I think there's more and more. In fact, if we look at people asking if time travel is possible, yeah, we're doing it. If you look at the Helmut Schmidt experiment, he did an experiment where he went back and corrected the past.
Really, I don't know if I
Very
heard about that.
well,
I thought,
yeah,
really.
very well explained experiment. It cannot be explained away. It did happen.
Well, that would be movement through a wormhole in our own dimension,
Yeah.
in our own ring.
Mhm.
So when I asked about portals versus wormholes, Um, well, I asked actually, it was just, didn't know anything about it. And so I said, "Well, so when you go back in time, do you go through a portal?" They said, "No, a portal is an opening into another dimension, another vibrational spectrum. A wormhole moves sideways from in between time periods in this dimension." So, and the way they showed me a wormhole was that it almost looks like a corkscrew so that you could go through one way. But if you try to come back, you'll be mentally messed up. And that's all I learned about that. So that's just to know the difference between the two.
Yeah.
But the
Oh,
wonderful thing about the interdimensional meditation is you can go in and ask these questions. Now, you always have to remain humble, okay? Because you can put the way you're receiving the information in meditation is telepathy, okay? It's in your mind, in your voice. I don't hear other people's voices or other spirits' voices. The information is sent to me, it's translated, and it's in my voice. Um, you can very easily put your own answers in their mouth. So you always have to stay humble and say, well, this is what I got. The best way to test that out, as I teach my students, is okay, go in and act and just let it be your creation, your imagination. Let it be your imagination. Imagination is the
yeah.
doorway to creation. So you go in and you have your experiences. Okay, now you start getting answers. You start asking your questions, and you're like, well, I don't really know if I'm there. Well, now go in and ask them something that you know you can Google that doesn't have, you're not attached to emotionally at all. Like, what supplement could I take for this condition? Something you know nothing about. Then you come out and you Google it, and when you see that that is right, that's when you're
Yeah.
hooked because
Yeah.
you're like, "I didn't know that. I didn't know that, and that was right, and I heard him, and I saw him, and we've got something here." So then
Yeah.
you just keep practicing, you know? You're never gonna perfect it. Never.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna go through your own emotional journeys, you're gonna be, and there's always gonna be the possibility that you put what you wanted to hear, because the interpretation is going on in your brain because that is our computer. That is how we
Hmm.
translate things. Um, you can always put your own words in their mouth. So
Yeah.
you have to be an observer, and you have to it's very hard to get answers on something that you're emotionally involved in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got a quick. We're getting down towards the end here, but I got a good question for you. Do you ever think that science and spirituality will be able to live under the same roof at one
Yeah, it's
time?
coming. I've said that for years.
Mm.
When I was a child, my parents, college educated parents, I came into the room and they are debating, arguing about creation versus evolution.
Mm.
And I came in, I was 5 years old, and I said, "You're not looking far enough back. You're not looking big enough. It's both." So someday, when science and spirituality realize that they are not a separate entities, that they are connected, and that everything is connected, and that science thinks it's so smart, but science is only studying the spiritual creation. Someday they will come together. We're on that path now,
Yeah,
and that we're going to see a lot of progress in that in the next 5 years.
I think so too.
Mhm.
And I see we're coming down towards the end here, but talk a little bit about where people can reach you, because if they get on the phone with you, their life can change. So let them know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, you can go to jenniferfallaw.com. That is Jennifer and then FALLAW.com. Right now I have specials on. So you're going to want to purchase and then email me to schedule everything. After the email is all over the website, you can find me on Philosophy on Telegram. Most of the time I'm on Telegram because we don't get censored there and we can actually say what we want. But the best place to reach me if you would like to purchase a reading or a medical evaluation or a healing is jenniferfallaw.com,
Okay,
or get the
that sounds
classes.
that sounds wonderful.
Mm.
I got one last question for you, and
Okay.
this is my favorite question. If you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
Remember who you are. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You are a piece of God. You are a creator. And all the things that make you feel small and insignificant are false. We aspire to be divine. This kind of creation will not work unless you pair up with the bigger piece,
Yeah.
and it cannot be used for anything dark. So, if you feel that inner calling, just remember the story of the car and
Mhm.
seek your guidance from him.
Yeah, we always got a co-pilot.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. And this was wonderful. I want to ask you to come back sometime later.
absolutely will.
There's so much to talk about. And the thing about what you do, you make people's life better. It's okay to talk about all the UFO and the extraterrestrials and all the phenomenal things out there. But at the end of the day, what does it do for you? I think what you are teaching people how to do make their life better.
Thank you.
That outperforms all other things. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, then, so for all the listeners out there, if you like what you heard, please subscribe. That'll help us a lot. And until next time, be good to each other.